The morning of November 27, 2006, the war in Iraq had already entered one of its most dangerous phases. The city of Baghdad was a battlefield of hidden enemies and sudden violence. Insurgents moved through neighborhoods with rifles and RPGs, striking quickly before disappearing into the maze of streets and buildings. American ground forces operating in the area knew this danger all too well. Nearly every patrol ended in a deadly ambush. And on this day, a group of American soldiers were caught in such a desperate fight for survival that one U.S. F-16 pilot gave everything he had to save them. That pilot was Major Troy Gilbert, a 34-year-old F-16 pilot deployed with the 309th Fighter Squadron from Luke Air Force Base. By this point in his career, Gilbert had already flown dozens of missions over Iraq and Afghanistan, delivering precision strikes and close air support for American troops on the ground. Among his fellow pilots, Gilbert had a reputation for calm decision-making and aggressive flying when the situation demanded it. He understood the importance of air support for the troops on the ground. Fast air support could mean the difference between survival and disaster, and on this day, American forces were about to need his help like never before. That morning, U.S. forces operating west of Baghdad came under sudden and intense attack. Insurgents armed with machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades opened fire on coalition troops. The engagement quickly escalated. Enemy fighters moved into firing positions along roads and irrigation ditches, using buildings and walls for cover. The air fight dragged on for some time, but then the situation became far more dangerous. An American helicopter crew began circling overhead, attempting to provide fire support for the men on the ground. But the aircraft quickly took heavy damage from enemy small arms and RPG fire, and now the crew were barely able to keep the bird in the air. Now both the ground force and the helicopter crew were in desperate need of immediate air support. Thankfully, Major Troy Gilbert was already in the air. His aircraft was a General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon, carrying a typical close air support loadout made up of his 20mm M61 Vulcan cannon, precision-guided bombs, and air-to-air missiles for self-defense. The F-16 was not designed primarily for low-altitude strafing. That role belonged to aircraft like the A-10 Warthog. But F-16 pilots routinely performed this type of close air support when troops needed immediate help. And on this day, speed mattered more than specialization. Gilbert received the call over the radio that American forces were in contact and in desperate need of close air support. So he turned his F-16 toward the fight. The desert landscape rushed beneath him as he accelerated toward the coordinates. Over the radio came fragmented reports. Troops pinned down, enemy fighters moving closer in, helicopter taking fire. The voices on the radio carried urgency. Gilbert understood exactly what it meant. When troops called for immediate air support, it meant the situation was very bad. He began his descent toward the battlefield. Below him, the terrain slowly came into view. Dusty roads, low buildings, palm groves, and somewhere among them, American troops were fighting for their lives. As Gilbert approached the target area, he began searching for the fight. Close air support required precision. He had to identify both friendly forces and enemy positions before making contact. The forward air controllers on the ground began guiding him in. They described walls. Gilbert banked the F-16 into a wide turn, then he saw it. Gunfire flashing from the ground, dust kicked up by rounds striking the earth. Friendly vehicles were pinned down and minutes away from being completely overrun. Gilbert prepared for his first attack run, but there was a problem. The insurgents were way too close to friendly forces for him to drop any bombs. Precision weapons required safe distances, and that simply wasn't on the table today. The only viable option was strafing runs, and that meant flying very low. For the 20mm cannon to be effective and safe to use in danger close air support, the F-16 would have to descend to low altitude, so low that the insurgents would be able to see him coming and effectively shoot back. But with complete disregard for his own safety, Gilbert rolled the aircraft into attack position anyway. Below him, the American troops waited desperately. Enemy fighters continued firing, and there was no time to wait. Major Troy Gilbert pushed the nose of his F-16 downward and began his attack. The F-16 picked up speed rapidly, slicing through the morning air as the ground rushed closer. Inside the cockpit, Gilbert tracked the target area through his HUD. Friendly forces were dangerously close to the enemy positions. There would be no room for error. At several hundred knots, even a small mistake could be fatal for him or for the troops below. The forward air controller confirmed the attack cleared hot. Gilbert stabilized the jet and placed the Piper over the insurgents' firing positions. Then he squeezed the trigger. In an instant, the M61 Vulcan cannon roared to life. Nearly 100 rounds per second streamed from the nose of the fighter. The recoil shuddered through the aircraft as glowing tracer rounds streaked downward. A long line of impacts tore across the enemy's position. Dirt and debris exploded into the air as the enemy fighters were ripped to pieces. The strafing run had an immediate effect. Enemy gunfire slowed. Several firing positions went completely silent. For the first time since the ambush began, American troops had a moment to move. Vehicles quickly shifted positions. Soldiers pulled wounded men to cover, and Gilbert pulled the jet up hard and banked away from the target area. But the fight had only just begun. Reminder that members of the channel get to watch the fully uncensored versions of these videos packed full of extra footage that was way too graphic for YouTube's homepage. As Gilbert climbed away from the battlefield, he saw flashes from the ground. The insurgents were shooting back. Tracers rose toward the departing F-16. Most fell far behind the aircraft. But Gilbert knew exactly what that meant. The enemy understood exactly what he was doing, and now they would be waiting for his next run. But before Gilbert even had time to think about the danger, a new call came over the radio. The American helicopter supporting the operation on the ground was taking heavy fire again. Without air cover, the helicopter crew would have to withdraw from the area, and if the helicopter pulled away, the troops on the ground would lose a critical lifeline. So Gilbert rolled into his second attack run. This time he descended even lower. Lower altitude meant better accuracy, but it also meant greater danger. At low altitude, the F-16 was vulnerable to heavy machine guns, RPG fire, and concentrated small arms fire. The aircraft was fast but not invulnerable. Gilbert lined up the attack, and again the forward air controller cleared him hot. And again, his cannon roared to life.
Hot in about 10 seconds.
Brad copies.
14's in hot.
Another stream of 20mm rounds slammed into the insurgents who were firing at the American helicopter. The entire firing position, along with all of the insurgents inside of it, were wiped out in an instant. And once again, the American troops on the ground seized the opportunity to reposition. For a moment, it looked like the attack might actually break the ambush. Gilbert pulled off from his second strafing run and began another turn back toward the battlefield. He could see movement again. Insurgents were regrouping, returning fire, and trying to pin the Americans down once more. The helicopter crew reported continued enemy fire, and the ground force still needed protection. Gilbert made the difficult decision to continue attacking despite the danger. Each pass required him to descend into the danger zone. Each pass increased the risk, but pulling away too early could leave the troops exposed. So he rolled the aircraft back into position, another dive, another strafing run, another burst of cannon fire. By now, the enemy insurgents were fully alert. Weapons tracked the incoming jet, and tracers began rising sooner than before. The enemy was ready, and on the next pass, the danger would reach its peak. As Gilbert began yet another low-altitude attack run, the battlefield rushed toward him faster than ever, but as Gilbert pulled the aircraft out of the dive, something went wrong. The soldiers on the ground saw the F-16 suddenly lose stability. Instead of climbing smoothly away from the target area, the aircraft began to wobble. Moments later, smoke appeared behind the jet. Something had hit the aircraft. The exact cause has never been determined with absolute certainty, but investigators later later concluded that the aircraft was most likely struck by heavy machine gun fire during the low-altitude strafing run. At the altitude Gilbert had been flying, the aircraft was well within range of insurgent weapons. Even a small amount of damage at high speed could be catastrophic. Inside the cockpit, Gilbert would have only had seconds to react. The F-16 was moving at hundreds of miles per hour. Altitude was limited. There was little margin for recovery. Radio transmissions suddenly became confused. Controllers and pilots called out warnings. Something was wrong with Gilbert's aircraft. The jet rolled sharply. Smoke thickened behind it. Instead of stabilizing, the aircraft entered a steep descent. From the ground, the American soldiers watched as the F-16 plunged toward the earth. The aircraft struck the ground at high speed just west of Baghdad. The explosion sent a column of smoke rising into the sky, and Major Troy Gilbert was killed instantly. He was 34 years old. For a moment, the battlefield seemed to pause. American troops who had just been saved by the strafing runs watched the smoke rising from the crash site. Other pilots overhead reported the loss. Controllers confirmed the worst. One of their own had just gone down, but the fight on the ground was not over yet. The troops still needed support. Other aircraft quickly moved into the area to continue the mission Gilbert had started. The insurgent attack was eventually broken, and due to Major Troy Gilbert's incredible bravery, the American forces survived the ambush. But this tragic battle wasn't done yet. The crash site was deep inside enemy-controlled territory. Recovery forces could not immediately reach it. Despite urgent efforts, Major Troy Gilbert's remains could not be recovered. For his family and fellow airmen, the loss was devastating. Gilbert had given his life protecting American troops, and now he was missing. The wreckage of Major Troy Gilbert's General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon laid scattered across farmland west of Baghdad. The crash site was deep inside insurgent-controlled territory, and reaching it would require a major ground operation. Commanders had to weigh the risk. Sending troops into the area could mean another deadly fight. For the moment, the wreckage remained where it had fallen. Major Troy Gilbert was officially listed as killed in action, body not recovered, but no one intended to leave him behind for long. Within days of the crash, intelligence efforts began. American forces gathered information about the crash site, surveillance aircraft monitored the area, reconnaissance teams studied imagery of the wreckage. What they discovered was troubling. Local insurgents had already reached the crash site. Pieces of the aircraft had been removed. Some of Gilbert's personal equipment was missing. There were indications that insurgent groups had taken items from the wreckage as trophies. Even worse than that, there were signs that Gilbert's remains may have been disturbed or moved. The possibility that enemy fighters had taken possession of his remains made the situation far more complicated. Recovery would now depend on intelligence rather than immediate action. Months passed, then years. American intelligence agencies continued searching for information about Gilbert's remains. Tips surfaced from detainees and informants. Some reports proved unreliable, others led investigators closer to the truth. Throughout this time, Gilbert's family endured years of uncertainty. They knew he had died protecting American troops, but they had no grave to visit and no final closure. Nearly a decade after the crash, investigators finally received credible information. Interviews and intelligence reports pointed to a burial site near the crash area. Evidence suggested that local civilians had buried Gilbert shortly after the crash. The information was passed to recovery specialists. Experts from the Defense Prisoner of War Missing in Action Accounting Agency began planning an operation. Their mission was simple: bring Major Troy Gilbert home. And in 2015, recovery teams traveled to Iraq to investigate the suspected burial site. Careful excavation began. The work was slow and methodical. Every piece of evidence had to be documented. Every fragment had to be preserved. Recovery teams worked under difficult conditions, searching for any sign of Gilbert's remains. Eventually, they found what they had been searching for. Human remains were recovered and transported for identification. Forensic experts conducted DNA testing, and the results confirmed what everyone had hoped. After nearly 10 years, Major Troy Gilbert had been found. And in 2016, Major Troy Gilbert finally returned home to the United States. For his family, it marked the end of a nearly decade of uncertainty. For fellow pilots, it was the return of one of their own. Gilbert was buried with full military honors. But Major Troy Gilbert was more than a pilot lost in combat. He was a husband, a father, a leader, and a man who flew into danger when others needed him most. For his service and sacrifice, Major Troy Gilbert received numerous awards, including a Purple Heart, a Meritorious Service Medal, an Air Medal, and an Iraq Campaign Medal. War is often remembered through large battles and operations, but I have found that the true story of war is found in the actions of individuals. Major Troy Gilbert flew into a dangerous fight to protect his fellow Americans. He made repeated low-altitude attack runs against enemy forces. He stayed in the fight even as the risk increased, and in doing so, he gave his life saving others. His final mission is remembered not only as a combat operation, but as an act of courage and sacrifice. Major Troy Gilbert answered the call for help, and because he did, American soldiers came home alive. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for his friends. John 15:13. You just heard a story of a man who gave his life so that others could live. The Bible tells us that the greatest love is to lay down your life for your friends, and that's exactly what Jesus did for all of us. If you've never put your faith in Christ, salvation is simple. Turn to Him, believe in Him, and accept the forgiveness He offers. He promises eternal life to those who trust Him.